afternoon and live from Texas, this is the Will Cain Show. Fox News alert. It could be history in the making for the quest for peace between Russia and Ukraine. A meeting is underway right now at the White House. President Trump is hosting world leaders, including Ukrainian President Zelensky.
I spoke indirectly with President Putin today. We're going to call President Putin right after this meeting. We're going to try and work out a trilat after that and see if we can get it finished, put this to sleep, because this is not since the Second World War has there been anything like this.
All of us want to finish this war, stop Russia and stop this war. We spoke about it, and we will speak more about security guarantees. This is very important that the United States gives such strong signal and is ready for security guarantees.
And I think in the past 2 weeks we've probably had more progress in ending this war than we have in the past 3.5 years. And I think the fact that we're around this table today is very much symbolic in the sense that it's Team Europe and Team United States helping Ukraine.
After 3 years and a half that we didn't see any kind of sign from the Russian side that there was a willing for dialogue. So something is changing, something has changed, thanks to you.
A remarkable meeting of European leaders there in the East Room of the White House that continues at this hour now that cameras have left. Any updates out of that meeting or anything coming afterward from the Oval Office will bring you right here on the Will Cain Show. But that meeting did come hours after a fresh round of Russian attacks in Ukraine that killed at least 10 and injured dozens. And days after Trump's meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska. Let's just say today's meeting with Zelensky was a little less contentious than last time.
President Zelensky, you look fabulous in that suit.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, you look good.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, looks good on
I
you.
said to the one that attacked you last time. See, now he said, I remember that.
Yeah, I apologize to you. You look wonderful.
All right, is the years-long conflict's end finally in sight? Let's get right to our panel. U.S. Army Special Operations vet and former Pentagon official Alex Plitzis, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, Bill Roggio, and CEO of The Federalist, Sean Davis. Gentlemen, thanks for being with me here today. Bill, I'd love to start with you, because where I'd love to start is sort of the state of play of the war in Ukraine. As we enter these negotiations, as we enter the potential for peace, who is it that has the upper hand? Who needs a deal? Who's winning the war on the ground in Ukraine?
Hello, Will. Yes, and the state of play is that the Russians have the initiative in this war. They're taking ground, albeit slowly, and they're winning the war of attrition.
President Trump, sir, your message.
Ukrainian military units are undermanned, and we saw a breakthrough just north of the city of Pokrovsk just over the last several weeks that demonstrate this. The Ukrainians have had to pull back some elite forces from other fronts in order to cover this gap and they have blunted this assault so far, but it puts other areas of the country at risk. The reality is that the Ukrainians need this deal. They need some type of ceasefire to reorganize their forces, to solve their recruitment issues, their manning issues, to train forces. Now, what Ukraine has to sacrifice to get that ceasefire, I suspect, is not palatable to the Ukrainian people or the Ukrainian leadership. It very likely, if not most definitely, will require some type of land swap. And I'm not sure that any Ukrainian government could survive ceding, I believe it's around 5,000 square kilometers of territory to Russia. That seems to be what Putin is asking for. So Ukraine is in a real catch-22 here. It needs this ceasefire.
All right, so the state of play is that Russia is on the front foot. Russia is winning a war of attrition as it is over time right now in Ukraine. Not a lot of incentive for Vladimir Putin. A lot of incentive, as you heard today in the meeting from European leaders, for a ceasefire. Vladimir Putin's going to want something in exchange for a ceasefire, for potential peace. I'll go to you now. Sean, we've heard over the weekend after the meeting with Vladimir Putin, we heard many suggest, well, he gave up nothing. Vladimir Putin has given up nothing. And we heard Secretary of State Marco Rubio yesterday saying, well, this is going to have to be a compromise. What will be the terms? What we need to see right now, Sean, is what is this middle ground? It can't be a demand for Vladimir Putin to surrender, not if the conditions are, as just described by Bill Roggio. So what is the compromise?
Right. In any sort of negotiation, you have to find a zone of agreement, this area that people on each side, if it's a two-person agreement, can agree to. And I think in this case, the thing that Ukraine is going to have to give up is it's going to have to give up some land. It has indefensible borders, evidenced by the fact that it has been able to defend them from Russia coming in and taking large swaths of eastern and southeastern Ukraine. I think Russia is going to have to accept some sort of Western, including probably European and U.S. security guarantees. I assume it will fall short of NATO membership, but it will look something along those lines. It might be Ukrainian membership in the EU. It might be treaties between various European countries or the EU, the U.S. and Ukraine. But I think Ukraine is going to end up with some sort of security assurance or commitment from the West that if Russia were to invade again or to try and take more land, that it would face an overwhelming military response if they were to do so.
Okay, so there's the broad parameters of a compromise. It is cessation of land from Ukraine in exchange for security guarantees from the West, Europe and the United States. Then comes the pessimism, Alex. Then comes the dirty details. What does that security guarantee entail, and will Russia accept it? And what land can be accepted by the Ukrainians? What land can be given up? And as Bill points out, Zelensky or any government remain in power in Ukraine.
Yeah, I think that's right. But at the end of the day, the Russians have also been largely the stalemate. There's been a few breakouts here or there, but the front lines haven't moved all that much. The area that they're asking for in the Donbas, the rest of Donetsk, which they haven't taken militarily, they've been trying to take since 2014. There's a very robust defensive line that's there that the Ukrainians have set up. And so effectively, the Russians are asking them to cede territory that they haven't won militarily and removing those defenses. So the concern from the Ukrainians is if they say yes to that, it will allow the Russians at a future date to free flow into Ukraine. The rest of the territory is flat, heading straight into Kyiv. And much to Sean's point, and Bill before, if there's a security guarantee of some sort, right, from the United States, Europe, some combination thereof, that's not NATO membership, perhaps that serves as the check against it. The irony here actually is that was part of the argument the last time he was in the Oval Office with the president, was that the mineral deal wouldn't be sufficient to stop Putin, that they wanted a security guarantee, and now we've gotten there several months later. I also think what was important today, when you see the European leaders in the room, is Europe is the largest trading partner of the United States combined when you talk about services and goods. And you saw the world's leaders of the largest economies, including conservatives and liberals, together in the room backing the Ukrainians with the U.S. This was a very significant symbolic show of force to the Russians today.
Okay, I think we've just sketched out, hopefully for the audience's edification, hopefully everyone understands where we stand today. As Bill mentions, Russia largely holding the upper hand. Still, Sean, as he points out, it's going to take a compromise, land swap for security details, and as Alex points out, but therein is the dirty details. He said no land trades. Watch this from Zelensky.
Russia is still unsuccessful in Donetsk region. Putin has been unable to take it for 12 years. And the constitution of Ukraine makes it impossible to give up territory or trade land. Since the territorial issue is so important, it should be discussed only by the leaders of Ukraine and Russia at the trilateral Ukraine, United States, Russia. So far, Russia gives no sign that trilateral will happen.
All right, that's Zelensky from Sunday. Of course, today he is in Washington, D.C. Let's quickly now turn back to our panel, Alex Plistis, Bill Roggio, and Sean Davis. Now, gentlemen, you heard that broken down by Chuck DeVore just now. I have said I want to be an optimist. Like you, Sean, it's time for peace. It's time for this war to end. There's a lot of pessimism. Perhaps, and we always have to be careful, realism sometimes comes in the costume of pessimism. But do you think there's reason that a second meeting, a trilateral meeting that brings Russia, Ukraine, and the U.S. together can find something acceptable to all parties?
I absolutely hope so. I think I'm more hopeful now than I've been in years, and I think the major thing that's changed is Chuck laid out. The ground conditions haven't changed, but one thing has changed, and that's the President of the United States. And I think Putin and Zelensky know that Donald Trump is a very different president than Joe Biden was, and when he says he wants peace, he means business. And I think looking at all these different peace deals Trump has put together recently, It's obvious the man wants peace, he wants peace deals, he wants war to end. And given the American financial involvement in this, I think we actually have the power to make that happen. And I think both Zelensky and Putin understand that Trump's not screwing around the way Biden was.
Bill, there's a lot of skepticism. Certainly if I turn it to other channels, it's beyond skepticism, it's cynicism. But even in other areas I hear, there's nothing to be done with Vladimir Putin. All of this is a big lie. So do you find yourself that skeptical, Bill? There's just no deal to be had with Vladimir Putin?
I don't think there's a deal to be had with either Vladimir Putin or Zelensky. Putin wants that territory, and Zelensky doesn't want to cede it. The other issue here is Zelensky doesn't want to cede the territory that Russia has already gained, yet the Ukrainians have no capacity to retake that. So that, to me, is a formula for a forever war here. And I somewhat disagree with Chuck that the Russians are gaining ground. It's slowly. We have to remember this is both a war of attrition and a war of territory. That war of territory is going on slowly, but the Russians are eating that cow one small bite at a time.
And look, history backs you up, Bill. That's the way Russia has won every war dating back to pre-World War II, World War I. They'll throw bodies into the machine. They win wars of attrition. Last word to you, Alex. I always find your read on these things fascinating. Do you sit here today pessimistic or optimistic?
I sit here 50-50, which is actually a phrase that the Ukrainians use in English when they talk about it. And I think for a few reasons. So we definitely saw the change. I mean, I actually wrote about this for Sean for the Federalist about 2 years before the war started, because we saw this coming. This was not a surprise, unfortunately. But we are where we are at the point that was just made. President Zelensky, I think, revealed a little something in his comments there that you just played, and that any discussions about land swaps would have to sort of take place in a trilateral setting directly with him and Putin, which is what he was advocating for. So it sort of opened the door for those discussions, even on the heels of only the Rada could approve any sort of territorial changes because of the Constitution. So the window is open for it. Putin wants the territory. The only thing that's going to change that is the cost calculus. So unless he is determined that the cost is more significant than what he has left to gain and he's not willing to expend it, he's going to keep going. So this is either delay tactics, trying to make it in a situation where he can blame the Ukrainians because they refuse to accept demands which are unreasonable, or he's genuinely at a point where, hey, let's pause, let's break. If we take and get rid of those defensive lines, we've got a security guarantee. He'll continue information, economic warfare, and potentially down the road do something else. I don't trust that man as far as I can throw him. To Bill's point, there's been small territorial changes, 100 yards here, and every day they're gaining a little bit of pieces. That's come at 1 million dead Russian soldiers. That is an insane amount of casualties we haven't seen since the Second World War. This man has sacrificed that many people for a small amount of territory. That tells you what his ambitions are.
All right. Alex Plitzis, the 50-50 optimist and pessimist, Bill Roggio, and Sean Davis. Thank you three for being with us here today to break down what is complicated, but I certainly have a deeper understanding. Thank you all very much.